August 16, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt arrives in Rockland aboard the presidential yacht Potomac. He recently returned to the United States from a shipboard meeting off the coast of Newfoundland with British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. At that meeting, Churchill and Roosevelt drafted the Atlantic Charter, which mapped out the Allied World War II and post-war strategy. The United States is aiding Britain, but would not become one of the fighting nations until the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. In Rockland, Roosevelt is evasive at a news conference on his yacht about exactly where he met Churchill or what they discussed. When Maine's state police chief lurches forward at the wharf to shake the president's hand, Secret Service agents who don't know him nearly knocked him into Rockland Harbor. Until tomorrow, I'm Brian Sullivan.